Justin has requested me on Patreon to review Chris Columbus's hit comedy Home Alone. This movie is nowadays regarded as a Christmas classic, and I definitely like it too. John Hughes came up with such an inspired concept for a family film, and with the help of Columbus's direction, they found the right ingredients to make something quite entertaining. The parts that most people remember from Home Alone are the slapstick scenes with the bandits. However, what's surprising upon watching the film is that it only takes up about 15 minutes of screen time. The majority of the movie involves watching Kevin as he decides what to do when left by himself. It's a credit to Columbus's direction that those scenes remain interesting and provide that child wish fulfillment. Kevin becomes a likable protagonist, and we understand his frustrations with the way he's treated by the rest of the McAllister family. Macaulay Culkin does a good job of handling the scenes where he basically has to act by himself. I also really like how Home Alone sets up the premise in the first act. Columbus and Hughes cleverly insert a lot of little scenes and dialogue exchanges that become important later on, and it does not feel forced. For example, there's a part where Kevin complains that Uncle Frank won't let him watch a movie because it's too violent. At first, it just seems like another way to indicate how Kevin is looked down upon by several of his family members. But then later on, we find out what the violent movie is, and he uses it a few times to his advantage while home alone. The film makes sure that the other characters also leave a memorable impression. Catherine O'Hara is great as Kevin's mother. It's actually a difficult role to play. She has to show her slight annoyance with Kevin in the early scenes, so it's justified when he angrily tells her he wishes they would all just disappear. However, O'Hara avoids making the character too unlikable, so her desire to return home as soon as possible is believable. And of course, she learns a lesson too by the end, resulting in a very touching reunion scene. The other standout character in Home Alone is the next-door neighbor, Marley. It was actually Columbus's contributions to the script that helped make that character into one of the emotional high points of the film, as he felt the story needed just a bit more heart. I like how Kevin immediately changes his entire conception of Marley as soon as he says, "Merry Christmas." He looks at him at that point and thinks, wait, this is the man my brother told me is a cold-hearted murderer? This scene together in the church is really sweet, with nice dialogue and exchanges between them. And I have to admit, the last scene where Marley reunites with his own family does make me emotional. And then we have the wet bandits, Harry and Marv. Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern work off each other well and provide plenty of funny scenes of their own. It's the classic pairing of the more short-tempered criminal with a less intelligent partner, but it works. When we do eventually get to the slapstick scenes, those are very funny. The way Kevin uses objects around the house to create these traps is inspired, and the actors and stunt people definitely manage to sell how painful they are, but without losing the comedy. It's such a well put together collection of scenes, and everyone involved in the production deserves credit for taking simple gags like getting hit with pin cans or slipping on icy steps and making them hilarious. I also have to mention John Candy's small role as the musician who helps Kevin's mother finally return home. He actually did it purely because of his friendship with John Hughes, and I smile every time he appears on screen. One of the most important ingredients of Home Alone comes from John Williams' score. According to Columbus, he was a last-minute replacement, but he loved the rough cut and went all out in composing the music, treating it with the same respect he would have if it was a Spielberg film. There's so many brilliant compositions in the movie, including the opening theme and the setting the traps montage, that elevate those scenes. Williams even teamed up with Leslie Bricusse to write Somewhere in My Memory, a beautiful song which has now become a Christmas staple, and for good reason. When I think of Home Alone, the score is honestly one of the first things that leaps to mind. In the end, this becomes a nice, humorous family comedy. It's easy to see why it appealed so much to early 90s audiences and continues to be rewatched every year and resonate with new generations. John Hughes wrote a lovely and funny script, with Chris Columbus giving it the right amount of atmosphere and joy. He has said he sought to make sure the film was timeless, and while you could probably point to several modern technologies that would change the plot if Home Alone was made today, I do think Columbus succeeded in his goal. Now let me know in the comments what you think of Home Alone, and thank you for the request, Justin.